Okay, and we're live. Today I have Ryan with me. Hi Ryan.
Hi, how are you, Kelly?
Good, good. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you've been through the circuit a little bit.
Yeah,
Um
I've been on a lot of interviews, but I'm happy to do more. So,
yeah, yay. Was that a double was I putting my double masculines to shame with that little dance? um uh and you're sure I'm not echoing for you?
no, you're not echoing at all. No.
Okay. All right, good. Um I'm going to I'm gonna close down some other windows. Okay. Um, I'm gonna roll the intro that I pre-recorded.
All
All
right, that sounds great.
right, let's go. Confronting Our Demons, the show where we talk about what makes us tick, especially the parts that may be scary to face. Initially, I'm inviting a guest on whose objective personality 512 type is opposite to mine in some way. That's because the top and bottom functions and animals in objective personality are called saviors and demons. My savior animals are blast and sleep, and my demon animals are consume and play. My guests will have consume and play, saviors, and blast and sleep demons. We'll likely have other opposites as well, and we'll likely have things in common too. Maybe in sharing how we function, we can learn a thing or two. Maybe we'll even find the cheat code to unlock God mode and reach our full potential. Probably not exactly. We all have our own roads to travel. I just want to have really interesting conversations that help us see each other and ourselves for who we truly are. If this works out the way I want it to, we're going to learn something and we're going to have some fun. I hope you stay for the ride and enjoy. And I'd really love to hear what things you've learned and what you want to learn next time and what was most fun for you. So let me know in the comments below. Let's get started. I have a really good guest on today. All right.
Wow, I like that.
You did? Good. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much. It was fun. It was fun. I'm having fun video editing. So I have the blaster report all ready. Let's go over it.
Let's do it.
Um, so what's really cool is that you're another EP that I'm having on the show. I mean, it's going to be common with who I'm having on, right? A consume play. I'm going to have a lot of EPs on.
Yeah.
Um,
I
you're
feel like the
another,
internet is our circuit.
yeah, right, right, exactly. And we have you're another beta quadra. I had an ISTP on last week, Taylor, and we're both energy dom. So you're double activated on consume, and I'm double activated on blast. So
Yep.
that'll be a cool, like real, um, you know, balance. But we both have saver sensory, right? Although yours
Mhm.
feminine and mine's masculine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing I'm going to add to this chart is that for future, but something we were talking about too, is that actually, even though we both save your sensory, and that's, masculine and feminine, we both actually have masculine OI and
Yeah.
feminine OE, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That is
Yeah.
definitely something you could add.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. In the same way that, our we're on the same axis for the thinking and feeling, right? We're on the same decider axis.
Yes, yes.
And so that does line up with our modalities. So I'm masculine feeling, you're feminine feeling, but we're both tribe feeling, right? And yours is a demon, mine's savior.
Yes, yeah.
Um, the animal energy, we both sort of like do the old McDonald thing, the EIEI.
Yeah.
And then I've got the double masculine SF blast and it's first, and you've got the double masculine NT sleep and it's a demon. And I know we're going to
Yes.
talk a crap ton about that today, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're probably going to go over that quite a bit.
And it's interesting too that both of us are savior temperaments, and what we're double activated on are both, for me it's SF and for you it's ST, right? So that top animal is the thing that we're double activated on.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um yeah, and then the other what's really interesting, and I think maybe one of the reasons that I think it'll just be delicious for me. My NT is double feminine. It's consume, but it's double feminine. And the same with like your SF is double feminine and my SF is double masculine.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that'll be really interesting to see. I know when we were talking before, you were like, you know, the SF blast doesn't bother you too much.
No, it definitely doesn't. There is, I think, yeah, I definitely have a harder time with NT Blast. Um, I'm fairly certain my fiance has NT Blast.
Oh,
So, no, she wants to reorganize the NT world and somebody's got to do it. It's just a lot of hard work
right,
because
right,
I
right,
don't want to
right.
be moved in my NT. I want it to be stable. I don't want it to ever change. I want it to be
Yeah,
perfect.
right. And so how does that work? How do you deal with that?
Um, I think I think that it's sort of necessary in certain ways. Like,
Mhm.
somebody ought to move my NT, and I mean, if Blast is about teaching, right, then somebody can teach me how to move my NT. You know, so it's it's a very interesting process with my fiance. She wants me to change in certain ways, and I want her to change in certain ways. But that's just a part of growth. Like,
Yeah.
it's just part of growing up. Honestly, we both look at each other and we're like, oh, I can see you're so like immature in certain ways. Because we're both very young, and
Yeah.
it'll get better.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we didn't really necessarily talk about that before, so I don't want to push too deep on that. So I'll
Hmm.
let you lead that on whether or not you want to go further on that.
Hmm.
Um, I do want to just start with a warm up though of, what made you decide to say yes to coming on my show? I know you've been like we talked about, you've been around the circuit. So what is it about you just want to go on as many as possible to get exercise that blast or
Yeah, I think it's about like getting through as much. I've tried to do as much extroverted activity as possible. Trying to get myself out there a little bit more, because I feel like over the last couple of years I've been doing like when I first started OP, I did interviews, but over the last like year and a half, I've been going all in on like the consume sleep. So I feel like I'm ready to come back to like come back and interview again, at least for a little while, and,
mm,
and then go
mm.
back and do the consume sleep again, after I've done some more interviews.
Oh, that's really interesting. So like they're not even together for you. So like you're constantly putting that consume sleep together. So I guess when you're sleep processing, do you have to be constantly feeding it through that consume to be able to do that sleep processing?
Yeah, and I have to, and during my regular day, I have to get over the hump of like I need some social activity. I need to expend some energy before I feel like I deserve sleep
Mm,
processing. So
mhm.
there's a hurdle to get over there.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find that when you're sleep processing? Do you have to get yourself into space to do that?
I do. I do certain activities to get into my sleep processing. I'll smoke, or I'll do exercise, or I'll just sit and think, or I'll play strategy games. Um, Something to get me through I need to expend energy and then process. So
Mm.
I can kind of like expend a lot of energy in any of those things and then slow down a bit and process after I've expended the energy.
What kind of strategy games do you play?
I play strategy games by Paradox Interactive.
Oh, like
There's
online strategy games.
Yeah, on the computer.
Got it. Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. What do you like about them?
Um, they're very intricate, and they challenge my mind. I think it's sort of like playing chess, but with a lot more sensory and a lot more unpredictability, perhaps.
Mm.
And I like that. So
Yeah, yeah. Are they fast paced or are they like turn based? Like, or
So it's kind of, you go at your own speed. You can kind of go very slow or go very fast, but days just pass by based on how fast you're going.
is it multiplayer?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can play it single player or multiplayer.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump back, okay? I know we went down a little path there.
Yeah, that's fine.
But what were you hoping to get out of tonight?
Probably just kind of talking about the NT and going over my journey in type and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So where did it start for you? How did you get interested in OPS, or was it, or typology in general?
So it kind of started back when I was like 15 or 16, going to college for the first time because I started college early. Um, and they had me take a personality test, and it was the Myers-Briggs test. And it kind of
Mm.
just, I started getting interested in this from that. Um, it took probably till I was 17 to hear about OP. And by my 18th birthday, I actually decided I would drop out of school and start pursuing OP because it was I it was a big decision, but I felt like I would get a lot more out of understanding people a lot better through learning OP, and I really have. Um, and I wasn't sure of what I wanted to pursue in college at the time anyway. So
So you dropped out of school to do OP? Tell
yeah,
me more about that.
pretty much. I wanted to focus all my time on OP, and my studies were
Mm.
getting in the way. It was so fast. It was OP was so much more fascinating than what I was studying. So
Mm. Now, do you think that that is your consume, or do you think you were starting to go into some sleep processing there?
probably a bit of both. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's more one thing over the other. I think my consume is ST, so I want to be consuming information that's interesting to me all the time.
Mm.
Like ST interesting facts, that kind of stuff. And once I started seeing patterns along with the facts, um, I was like, oh, this is very interesting. This is a lot more interesting than anything I've learned in psychology so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I did, the patterns are what got me too, man. It's just like the sets of binaries, right? And then you just start putting them together, and you can put them together all sorts of different ways. And they just start, you know, and if it's sound, if the math, quote unquote, is sound, right? It should, the different combinations of the things should also work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah. So, so you got into OP, and did you start back up in school at all?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's been a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've worked
Yeah.
for my dad right now, and I'm still studying OP. I'm
Hmm.
teaching OP. Um, I'm just kind of doing as much as I can to learn about OP and spread it to people who I think will be benefited by it.
Why? What do you think the benefit is?
A lot of self awareness. I feel like a lot of people need the self awareness, and I think a lot of people need the tribe awareness. Um, some people need to know themselves better, and other people need to get to know others better. So
And what are you doing to teach it?
just kind of literally going over the coins with people, um, taking people along the journey of my consume, of this is what I'm learning recently. These are the patterns I'm finding interesting, and once you can catch their eye with like, oh, I do see that in people, then you can be like, well, here's another pattern. Here's another pattern, and I think
Yeah.
that people are really interested in that kind of thing.
Yeah. What kind of patterns are really cool? I mean, you must be picking them up really easily.
So what's the most interesting stuff to talk about is like pointing out demon feeling versus demon thinking, um,
Mm.
pointing out tribe savior versus identity savior, um, and also explaining to people that it's a lot more of like a grant. I mean, you can't really say it's a grant stack thing because nobody knows what that means.
Right.
But if you say it's a percentage thing, like, oh, you're like 80% this and 20% the other thing, then it starts to make sense to people. You're
Mm.
like, you're not entirely this DI, oh, kiss my ring, I'm selfish kind of person, right? You just lean that way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you're that way all the time, but if you give someone an example of someone in their life who is more DE than they are, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I am DI.
Right.
So, you know,
Right. Right. Are you helping people figure out their type, or figure out, or just understand the system?
a little bit of both. It depends
Yeah.
on how well I know the person. If I can lead with teaching someone their type, that's great. If I can lead with teaching them somebody else's type and then triangulate back to what their type might be,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is great too. It just depends on how much I know about the person when I decide I want to start talking to them about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me more about like the demon thinking versus feeling. I'm gonna bring up the slide again, so that people can kind of see what we're talking about here, because we have that, right?
Yeah,
I have demon thinking, and you have demon
feeling.
feeling.
Yeah.
Even though one's tribe and one's identity.
So I hear people say all the time, like, about people I know are thinking saviors. Um, they say, wow, those people have a lot of feelings. And that's true. I think when you look, when you're trying to get over the hurdle of explaining what thinking and feeling mean to someone, you can say something along the lines of, you know, that person has a lot of feelings that they can't control. And we call that person a thinker, you know. And this person has, when you go on the other side to people with demon thinking, um, I have a harder time explaining that one. But my mom is a great example of someone I know. She has Savior FE. Um, she will be very standoffish and shut you down if she thinks that you're calling her stupid or insulting her intelligence.
Mm,
Um, and um, yeah, so she could
right.
have that problem, which isn't really a problem. It's just that's her problem with other people. Is that she thinks that other people are calling her stupid sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Versus the demon feeling would be what?
Um, Probably more along the lines of not being able to control the emotion.
Can you still hear me? Oh, you're muted. Did I mute you?
No, I think I must have got muted somehow. I'm
Okay,
unmuted
all
now.
right. Give me just one moment, though. I thought I'm having a
Hmm.
I'm having technical
Yeah,
difficulties. Hang
don't
on.
worry about it.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I forgot my husband just went to pick up dinner.
Yeah,
So
I have some technical difficulties regarding dinner as well.
oh,
So
really?
yes.
What are your technical dinner difficulties?
Well, my dad wants me to order him food, and I'm conducting an interview, or not, or part of an interview. You're conducting an interview, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm part of an interview. So,
Well, I could try to improv for a minute if you need to go order food.
no, I think he'll be able to figure it out.
What a what a crazy time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's regroup. Back to demon feeling.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I tried to think of something to say, and demon play. Oh, I love it. I love it. All of this is information.
Yes, you can observe a great many things from this.
She could. She could. Including the fact that I had watched a video one time of, like, best tips for streaming, or like how to have a good live stream. And I'll tell the audience while he's talking about dinner. But I had found they said, now put in like a little be right back slide, because you never know what might come up and you might need to put that up there. So I had that prepared and ready, and when I needed to be right back, I put that slide up. So that was handy, listening to the things that need to get done. Oh, is Ryan about to unmute?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay. I kept it going.
You did a great job.
Thanks. Let me take a glass of water, though. That was rough. All right, let's go. Yeah, never mind. Demon feeling. You were telling me about demon feeling.
Yeah. So it's hard. You can't really just tell someone that you wreck the vibe, but if you can put it in so many words that you wreck the vibe with being a thinker, then it's true. It's about a lack of awareness or even care for the emotional vibe of either people that you are in your close social circle or people who are in the greater world, and sometimes it can be both, so
now it seems like you understand that one better. Is that because you've found yourself vibe wrecking a lot, or
yes, I can see myself vibe wrecking pretty consistently.
Yeah. How so? Like, what are you doing that wrecks the vibe?
Well, I've wrecked the vibe by not being informative enough with what my dad should order to my fiance. So she is upset. So
wait, what is she upset with, though? Or I shouldn't be asking what she's upset with. But
I
mean, like,
should have been more connected a moment ago when I took my break to the emotions of the tribe, and instead I was more like, I got shit going on. So
okay. Got it. How do you deal with that in your normal life? Like, how have you been able to? So you've recognized it now, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, like,
I can recognize I do things that wreck the vibe pretty consistently.
So what are some wins? What are some times where you've, like, noticed you were about to and didn't, or like how do you recover from it? Like today, like when you wrecked the vibe today by not, maybe you didn't recover from it. Like how have you successfully recovered? What do you wish you did if you could go back in time?
These are good questions.
You keep asking more until you start blasting.
No. So I will probably go apologize after I'm done with this interview and say that I could have handled that better. I could have carried a better tone. I could have put more attention towards helping. I could have even stood up for a second and handled the problem, but I didn't. So I will rectify the situation later and hopefully do differently in the future. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. But is that your biggest struggle, wrecking the vibe, or that's just what you happen to know? That's what you're most.
That's what I'm most aware of.
Yeah.
What I don't want to accept I'm wrecking is my future. I'm not doing that. Everything I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to hear about the fact that I might be doing things wrong. that are going to impact my future. That sounds pretty scary. So
Yeah, because your demons have that OI in it.
yeah.
Both of your savior animals have that OE in it,
Mhm.
and you are like 80% OE, right? Like
Yeah.
SE, right?
Yeah,
Like you're
exactly.
in the stack, you're 80% SE, and your top two animals are SE. You're like SE all over the place.
Yep.
um, so, and that's SE is like a really interesting thing to me. I even remember when I like gave you something to think about, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that's not,
Not
you're
how
not gonna,
SE works.
yeah, that's not how
Yeah,
SE.
the way you presented it,
Yeah. I was like, that's an anything. I like gave you one little piece. I was like, so you can start thinking about it.
yeah, and I'm like, I don't do that. I need lots of sensory examples, and then we can narrow down. Like,
Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you like are you very aware of your surroundings, and are you, I guess do you get bothered by your surroundings at all?
yeah, I'm usually pretty aware of my surroundings. I pay close attention
Mm-hmm.
to them. I feel like I live in my body a lot. Like I'm not living outside of my body very frequently. Um, I hear people say stuff like that all the time, and I don't really know what they mean. Um,
What do you mean by it?
what I mean by living in my body um, is like I'm very connected to my senses,
Mm-hmm.
and just all of them. Um, and I enjoy feeding those senses. Um, I like things that are visually pleasurable. I like things that taste nice. I like moving around a lot. I like touching things. It's very, 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 very sensory.
Does it ever get overwhelming?
Um, not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can't really say I'm overwhelmed by the SC very often.
That's interesting because I love when you're talking about good food and good like even just like material that feels good. I love good sensations, but
Yeah.
like I get very overwhelmed very easily. Like I have in my curtains that you see in my little corner of my house that I
Hmm.
use for my office space. I have a curtain on the top too to shade the light from the skylight. Like I need it to be dark. I need it to be like no, I can't. I get so sensory overload, and I'm wondering if it's a SE versus SI or
Hmm.
masculine sensory, because we're both savior sensory, right?
Right. Right. Could be a consume thing too.
Yes, yes, you're probably right. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, I'm very consumed with the sensory. Like I want to consume and play my sensory all day. I want to consume things for myself and then share them with others, and it's always sensory stuff.
yeah. Oh my gosh, you just gave me like this beautiful like eureka moment.
Hmm.
Because my consume doesn't have sensory in it at all. Like even my consume, which is dead last double feminine, doesn't have sensory in it.
Right, right.
Right. So sensory, like most of the time, I'm like sensory. You can just go f off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the thing here. I'm gonna pull up the sheet again. Right. Right. Um, where were we at here? So we've got, oh yeah, you said you're really fun with the SF play. So
Yeah,
tell me
yeah.
more about that.
Yeah, I can be pretty silly, pretty lighthearted. Um, when I am in my play mode, I I'm pretty open to new experiences, and people can kind of just do. I'm really up for anything. Um,
Mhm.
but I think when I'm processing, it's like exactly the opposite. So there's like a really big switch when I'm
Mm.
done with the play. Like I just have to disappear from the social situation.
And it's like, does it feel like it's without warning? Like you don't
Yes.
even see it coming?
No, I don't. I don't see it
Mm,
coming. It just kind of happens, and I can't really predict, but it happens.
yeah, yeah. And then is that sometimes has that created strife in your life with your relationships with people?
Yeah, it probably has to some degree. I would say so.
Or is that something that you feel like working on that would
Yeah, I think I
improve your
probably
life?
have put a lot of work into it, and I'm gonna continue working on it. You know.
How if somebody else is having that problem, how would you recommend that they get through it?
Um.
If you don't mind sharing. If any of this starts to go too deep, you just tell me,
Yeah.
safer
Probably
it'll be
just
extroverted sensing.
processing on the issue. I think
Okay.
that's usually what I recommend for almost anything that you're trying to fix. Anyway, is just processing on it and then trying to make, you know, David Shan say this all the time, but try to just get 1% better over some period of time, and it is really the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any trackable objectives that you're using to, improve on your struggles?
Um, I have a 1 year plan where I'm going to start start paying for more of the stuff in my life that I haven't paid for because I currently live with my parents still, so I'm like I want to move out or start paying rent or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so your objective then your like sort of trackable objective is that you'll start having these things or that you'll start paying these things off.
Yeah, and have more
Yeah.
independence
Yeah,
by
yeah, yeah. Yeah, boy, we got a far way away from your typing journey and your NT sleep.
yeah.
So, okay, so let's go back. So you had started teaching people about OP
Yeah.
because you're really into it. And but then you went into like a real big consume sleep process about it. Now you're ready to start getting out there again and
Yeah.
kind of maybe start blasting about it.
Yeah.
So, what are and I know you said that, you think people could really benefit from it from a self-awareness point of view, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, how are you planning on teaching people about it, like, going forward? Like, how are you gonna reach people?
um I have people that have suggested that I write a book or that I do a podcast or that I start doing YouTube or any number of those things. But I feel like I'm still doing, and I know this is a big cop out for my type, but I'm still doing the consume.
You're right,
You know,
right. Yeah.
um, I don't. I'm a perfectionist, so I want it to be perfect when I start. You know,
Yeah.
um,
What is what's what's the fear? What's the worst that could happen when if it's not perfect when you start?
it's about taking steps down a road that you don't know that you're necessarily going to complete. It's
Mm,
about starting a journey you don't know that you're going to finish.
because then if you get halfway down the journey, right?
Hmm.
What is it that you would definitely make it to the end of the journey and then wouldn't like it, or is it that you would get halfway there, know that you're on the wrong road, and go like, "Oh, what do I do now? Do I have to go backwards?"
Yeah,
Like, what is
it's
that?
both. It's both of them. Honestly, there's a lot of those fears that are intermingled with that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you have any thoughts on how you might like sort of like, oh, but it's that double masculine NT sleep, isn't it? Like
Hmm.
once you get locked, you were saying before even too when we were talking before that like once you get locked in, you're in.
Yeah,
Right? Was that you? We were talking about
yeah,
that?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me more about that. Like how have you gotten locked into something and then have you ever successfully like unlocked from that?
Yeah, weight loss was one of the big things that I like attached my whole character to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I used to weigh 375 pounds at 5'9", and I lost 225 of it, so I was down to 150.
Wow.
Um, and now I weigh about 230, 240, um, depending on the day.
Mm.
Um, but I'm all right with the weight that I am right now. But I was like really locked in on the weight loss for so long. Um, and I was way too locked in. I was like, my and I said this before in interviews, but my idols were Arnold Schwarzenegger and David Goggins, and I really just wanted to like be them.
Mm.
So,
And how did you get unstuck from that?
um, kind of reorganizing my life philosophy around a perspective that it's okay to not achieve very highly, and that you're still a it's you still can live a fulfilling life without achieving more than everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. If you came to that new worldview though, that's got to be tricky. I'm trying to picture what like sort of like I'm picturing it like something stuck in clay, right? Something had
Yeah.
to jiggle something to sort of like let that loose a little bit in your mind.
it
What
was
was
it was like the biggest mess in my life, like reorganizing my
oh,
worldview. It was like the darkest times in my life were reorganizing the worldview from you must achieve everything to it's okay to be who you are.
so it was just your circumstances. It sort of imploded in on you and
Yeah.
then you were forced to face it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Do you feel like that's probably going to come up again if you don't you know, stop trying to be a perfectionist?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I think it I think there's many pit of darknesses that people face in life. There's not just you can't really just have one, you know.
Mm, mhm,
um
mhm.
so I'm sure there are more coming in varieties of like when I lose my parents, um if I lose somebody close to me,
Excuse
just
me.
death in general is something that is going to lead to a pit of hell in my life because I'm NF last and I don't process that. That was
Mm,
like, I know when I talked to Dave a lot, he was like, as somebody who is NF and looking at me, somebody who is NF last, he was his big advice was like, for yourself, please start processing death, like
mhm.
because you are going to be blindsided by it, and it's going to ruin you. It's going to ruin you if you don't process it.
Yeah.
So
And have you started to process it? And again, please stop me if we're going too deep.
you're good. No, I haven't processed it at all. I wish I could. It's too overwhelming to go there. I've lost people before, and it's like a case by case circumstance.
Mm,
Um, and I know that I can't. To begin to process the fact that my parents are going to die would be to lose some amount of connection with them, and I don't want that to happen.
yeah. So what do you think are you just prepared then for when it happens it'll just happen and it'll be an explosion and you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. But
And
what if
that's probably not entirely healthy, but
right? like like what if like you're happy in that moment or what if you have everything you need and then that just like destroys your life?
um,
Not to be dim and grim here.
no, I mean these are the real questions. Um, I I would hope it would not destroy my life, but I do have fears that it might, you know.
Yeah.
So I it's just gonna depend on the way it happens, you know. Like if I feel ready enough for when it happens. Like if it happens tragically, I'm not gonna be ready for it, you know.
I wonder if there's little versions of that that you can kind of practice with, right? Like kind of like with weights, right? Where you have like you start with the 5 pounder and then you go to the 12 pounder, like and you keep working up. I
Yeah.
wonder if there's a smaller trauma that you can kind of like force yourself through almost.
Yeah.
Um
I think I know what it feels like to go through that amount of trauma. I
mhm.
just don't react well to it. Um, so the tendency is to put it all on myself, to blame myself, and then to have to change myself because of feel obligated for it to metamorphosize my character.
Mhm.
Tragic events.
Yeah, and
Um,
that Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
No, that's it, it's kind of like just a real metamorphosis that is forced in the sleep when something that tragic happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And you really need something to kind of like dig in there because you're not going to your sleep naturally.
Yeah, not really.
um, yeah. Your sleep is sort of like, like clay that's already been solid, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, and it's brittle, but sturdy. So if you put enough pressure on it, it breaks. It doesn't. You can't mold it. So
Do you find it's funny, you have sleep third, but we, are talking about it a lot, right? And I know it's your double masculine, so maybe that's why. And I mean, we even talked about like you're very big on your NT path and all of that stuff.
yeah,
Um I do, but just real quick, like do you find that you have problems with your blast? Like
yeah, all the time. Like I feel I teach at inappropriate times.
oh,
Um,
tell me more.
like whenever the blast comes out, it just must come out. Like
Mm.
um, and I feel like I have to like interrupt to do it. Um, have to interrupt the moment. Have to wreck the vibe to get the teaching out. You know.
Oh, yeah.
So
What kind of What kind of teaching do you always do? Is there a certain type of thing that you feel obligated to blast when it's like that type of blast?
it's all OP stuff.
Oh, it's all OP stuff.
I feel like it could help people. So I feel like if
Yeah.
people understood it better, it would help them along their life journey. So
How do you bring it up to people when they don't know about it, or do you not talk to? You're usually not talking to people who don't know about it.
I'll just say something along the lines of, "Have you ever heard of the Myers-Briggs system?" And if they haven't, then I'll explain. I'll explain the basics of it,
Hmm.
and then I'll explain the basics of OP.
Yeah,
Depending
yeah,
on how
yeah,
much time they have.
yeah, yeah. What what are some of the things that you wish more people knew about it? And like especially like, you're getting on a bunch of interviews, right? And like the conversations go where they need to go. What are the type of things that like you wish you had the chance to talk about but you didn't?
Um, Probably how how evident the single observing versus single deciding coin is. Like I
Mm,
feel like people get caught up a lot there, and even myself gets caught up there. But when you're looking at it in theory, not necessarily in practice, but in theory, you're looking at the single decider who processes the people, and the single observer who processes the things.
mm,
And I think for people who are just learning type, if you're like just trying to slap a personality type down, like it's not necessarily the thing that you should do. The first thing that you should look for is this person an observer or a decider?
mm,
And I feel like that is really where you should start. And if you can't recognize that pattern in people that you're looking at, then maybe you shouldn't go much deeper. You should just keep going on the coins until you have a more balanced understanding.
mm. Why is that? Why do you think that that one is so important?
um because I think it's really because I think people you'll be having a conversation if you're an observer,
Mm-hmm.
and someone will stop you to talk about people, and there is literally a triggering feeling with that. Sometimes you're like, okay, we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
people now, I guess. And then
Mm,
the other way around, I feel like maybe the deciders feel this way. I'm not a decider, so I can't say. But say someone goes all in on talking about the thing for no reason. You're talking about people, right? And they're just like, well, no, what about this thing? And
mm-hmm,
then the
mm-hmm.
conversation trails off, and so we're talking about things now. You know, it is if you leave it up to somebody, they will bring the conversation back to what they want to talk about. And single observing versus single deciding is one of the ones that's really obvious to see. So after you know it a little, after you can recognize it, you can
It's
copy that over to other people, and it's really easy to say, oh, this person's this and this person's that. So
Doesn't it make it really easy to it like makes it a lot easier to have conversations with people? with people too. I noticed upon rewatch of my interview with Adrian that he had mentioned something about Blast and not wanting to get the information wrong. Like that's what it feels like, right?
Mhm.
And I said, oh well, I've noticed that if you get the information wrong, people are forgiving about it. And then on rewatch, I was like, oh my gosh, that was that advice was not helpful for him.
No, because it's not. We're not going to be forgiving to ourselves, probably. That's it.
Right. And also, like, it's not. I had thought about it on rewatch that it wasn't about the people at all. It was
Yeah,
about the information,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
It's about being responsible with the information because
yeah.
I want to like just surround myself with consumes because like y'all are actually taking in all of the information.
I mean, I think a lot of us like it's important to catch us in an area that we're interested in because I feel
Mm.
like you could really mistype someone if you're talking to someone about something you're interested in and they're like, "Oh, I'm not interested." You're like, "Oh, that must be demon consume." And it's not
Oh.
always the case. That can always be a picky savior consume, someone who's like, "Nah, I'm really just interested in my consume."
Right. What kind of do you have you found a pattern in, specifically what type of consume that is, or it's just just
I
people?
There, I think the more I've seen, the more masculine a consume is, the more
Hmm.
choosy they are about what information is taken in.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot, and probably just masculine ST in general as well is going to be
Hmm.
choosy about what information they take in.
Oh yeah.
So, like the masculine ST consumes,
Mm.
savior especially, are
Hmm.
really really picky about how they use their consume. I've noticed that.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Really? So that would be MF, like ISTP, or an MF,
ESTP.
ESTP.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I would have guessed if I had a guess. I would have thought that it was the double masculine consume as well.
Yeah.
But
But
that's
I am that way to some degree too. My TI is what's the picky part. The SC is like whatever. Like take me for a ride. We'll go talk about whatever. You
right.
know, like but the TI is more like, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Oh, that works.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, you do have the masculine TI, so like you have a little bit, you have halfsies on that one, right?
yeah.
Yeah. But it's followed right back up with that double feminine play. I you know, with your, I like we had talked about. I also have masculine OI, right, and I have it like in both of my saviors. But when it comes to the intuition, right,
Mhm.
that masculine introverted intuition and the feminine extroverted intuition, right? We both have it as demons. We both have our intuition as a demon,
Right.
right? And because of how our stack lines up and how I've done these interviews, right? Like for you it's OI and for me it's OE, right? But and yours is masculine, mine's feminine. And it's strange. You would think that generally speaking, the extroverted functions I feel like are more sort of the more kind of like direct, action oriented, kind of
Mm.
um
I feel like they're
moving
that way
outward.
when they're masculine,
Mm.
especially. But not to say that they're not that way when they're just. I feel like whatever the masculine energy is, you're going to be swinging that. You're going to be pushing with that.
That's where it
So
is. Yeah.
I don't know if that's just the OE because I feel like especially with like if I observe like a feminine NE, like they're talking about a lot of different patterns and stuff, but are they pushing it on people in a serious way? And then the answer is no.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Like almost like the masculine is sort of like pulling it in whatever direction it's going, right? So if
Yeah.
it's masculine OI, it's pulling it more inward.
Yeah.
And masculine OE, it's pulling it more outward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting because I've heard people talk about how like feminine um Oh, which one is it? Like one of the like the people get confused. Oh, feminine NI, they get confused for NE sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot because my like the feminine NIs I know, I've got a lot of them in my family, like use some pretty out there analogies and say some pretty out there stuff, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
it's generally stuff that they're not making like abstract connections in the moment. They're recalling their already processed, patterns on, oh, this would be funny, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. It's not actually expanding if you were to really look at it,
Yeah, it's
right?
more like we're gonna narrow down this conversation into I know this is gonna be funny, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah, and tell me about the narrowing down, right? Because I was just recently talking about this about how intuition's all in your head anyway, right? Like so like I think that's one of the reasons I thought I had NT sleep because there's like intuition in my head, right? I'm going to pause for a second cuz he looks like he's dealing with dinner. Um This is where it would be good if I knew how to improv, and I can't improv.
No,
Oh,
you're
there you're
good.
back.
My dad just walked in. He's smoking a cigarette in here and sitting down. He's gonna
Okay.
listen to me talk for a second.
All right, cool. Yeah, we're going to be wrapping up soon anyway. But then the OE, right, like the any outside, um it's all inside your head, right? So I thought I possibly had NT sleep at some point, right?
Mm,
Because I saw myself doing that in my head. As I thought about it, I am actually the ideas are expanding though. So tell me about those. How is it that your mind is sort of narrowing in the concepts?
so I feel like when we're considering options, it's the sensory, right? It's, oh, there's the sensory options, right? And then when the NI lens of, no, this is going to work in the future gets narrowed down on one sensory option,
Mm,
then that's the one that we choose, you know. So that's it. I feel like my dad does that a lot when he does like marketing and when he's trying to decide things on his business.
mm-hmm.
Um, he is kind of encountering a lot of things in the real world that he could be doing, but then there's one that really works in the future, and that's the one that you go with.
Mm. Okay. Oh, right, because it's very future based, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's why it's like the path thing.
yeah. The narrowing down is about what's going to work tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Right. And then even then, especially then when you put that TI next to it, that's when it's really like the ultimate final solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so sweet. Um, kind of jealous of it, but it sounds like it's a little
It's
bit
all right. I get to be jealous of the SI being able to actually do things in order, and FE actually having regard for the social situation because I put my foot in my mouth and screw things up pretty
yeah.
frequently.
Yeah,
So
gonna use me. I'll put my foot in my mouth too. I'll just feel really bad. I don't know. I'm not to say that you don't feel bad about it, but it's funny. It's funny. It's not. It's we don't always do our savior as well at all. And I know that even David Shan say that, but like uh, just because it's 80% doesn't mean that
yeah,
we're
like
getting an
I
80%.
I think I get less out of my SE because it's a feminine function and I'm a single observer
Mm.
with it. I can't combine it with NI very
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I think like people who, for example, like I know a lot of SIFEs with masculine FE, or a couple that really, really, really lean on that FE, and they're like, I know how to use it, and I can because I'm using it in combination with TI. I'm seeing the
Mm.
whole me spectrum, social spectrum kind of thing.
Yeah. And then they can really use it. Yeah, I do definitely feel more comfortable with my observers. So we've got like maybe 6 or so minutes left in our little hour here. I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're like one of the, you know, you've been in around for a while. So picking your brain and hearing how you handle this. I mean, you're in the BCs sometimes, but like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
that
Yeah, and
it's
if you
walking
ever
out
want to
that
come
much.
come talk to me, get on the Discord VC. I get on there every once in a while, so I might be there.
Yeah. Is there any are any questions you have for me?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm so bad at that. Uh, um,
Right, because you're not going to you're not going to any it out of the air.
no, and I can't ping the tribe. I mean, I can ping the tribe with play, but it's just
Yeah.
hard to do it on the spot. I don't have
Yeah.
the double feminine play. Is like
All right, so
right.
let's the list 5 minutes. Let's do this on the list 5 minutes. I want to know, you know, with the struggles that you've had in your life, have you found that not that you've it's not like you found OP like you found OP really early in your life,
Mhm.
right? Relatively.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
like do you remember a distinct difference between your processing your struggles within the OP framework and then processing your struggles before you had the OP framework to put around it?
Oh, that's a good question. I think beforehand, I wanted to attach answers to things that I wanted to explain things through a lens that didn't make sense to anybody. And
Mm.
that is completely different now. And I think that is it's maturity in knowing the patterns that are real, and it's also the system kind of nudging that experience along, because there are actual definitions that you can go to, oh, this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and you can share that with people. It's not just the self-awareness journey comes along so much quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes quicker. You're right. You're absolutely right. All right. I think two more questions. Okay. I have two very specific questions I want
All
to ask.
right.
All right. So one, if you were to watch one of these interviews of mine, right? Like
Yeah.
what do you think that what would be more interesting than what I brought up here? Like or what should I do more of? What should I do less of
Okay.
now
um
that you've experienced it?
i think I think maybe even going longer. I've seen a lot of people do
Mm-hmm.
interviews that are like an hour long, and I feel like I'm not seeing a lot of people in the YouTube venue doing videos that are like an hour and a half or 2 hours long, where you can really, and I know that's a lot to ask of somebody, people get tired, but if you can like even just skip to a part of the video, like Dave and Shan suggest you do when you're typing somebody, then you can see
Mm,
random parts just pop up. Dave and
mm,
Shan, I feel like you can't really just skip to different parts of the videos because there's not a lot of length. So you
mm.
can't type somebody with just an hour of content. It's so much easier to go through and see somebody's type if you have more than an hour of content.
Right, right.
So
So if you have that hour and a half, there's more of the, they're probably in their flow state now.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah, because see here, the demon consume. I'm like, if I do more than an hour, people are gonna go nuts. Like
Yeah,
I need to
it's
cut
all
this
right.
down.
People will watch what they watch, and if you'll get some people that stick around to watch the whole thing, and I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. That's really cool, man. All right. So my last question. Um, and I'm sorry, I'm springing this on you. It just came to my head. If we were to meet up again, like say in a year,
Yeah.
what do you really hope future you is going to say about what you've learned
Oh,
and
that's
how
a
you've
great
grown?
question. I hope future me has continued along the journey of sharing type with people, and I hope it gets even easier to do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I'm going to end it there. That was really beautiful.
All right. That
All
sounds
right.
great.
I'm going to end the broadcast. See you later, guys.
See you guys.